About the only place the Mafia is doing well these days is in the television ratings with The Sopranos. Everywhere else, La Cosa Nostra has been decimated by gangland killings and federal prosecutions, with an entire generation of mobsters either knocking each other off or ratting each other out. Nowhere is that more evident than in Philadelphia, where a former cop turned mobster turned government witness has helped send more than 50 made members of his family and their associates to prison. Big Ron Previtte didn't do it to save his own neck. He did it for nearly $1 million. In many ways, Previtte's career embodies the waning days of La Cosa Nostra in America, where the only honor left is survival.
My occupation has been crook most of my life.
At 6 feet, 300 pounds, with a physical presence and a wise guy persona, Previtte certainly fits the stereotype of organized crime, and it's no wonder. He grew up in Philadelphia, a second-generation Sicilian American, and some of his earliest memories are of gangsters.
I used to see guys that were bookmaking, doing things, driving Cadillacs back then. They used to wear the fedoras, and I guess that's what I aspired to be, so to speak. I didn't want to be an astronaut, you know.
You wanted to be a gangster?
I wanted to be in that world. I wanted to, it's a shame to say, I always wanted to do wrong.
And he did. Even when he was in the Air Force, he was a petty thief and black marketeer. And as a member of the Philadelphia police force, then known for its corruption and brutality, he fit right in.
I was a crook in the police department. I robbed everything I could. But by the same token, I liked making arrests, too. I got accommodations. I had a good work record, except I was a crook. But most of the people I worked with were crooks.
Really?
I never learned about crime till I went in the police department. I always said that I really became an adept thief when I went in the Philadelphia Police Department.
He learned how to shake down pimps and drug dealers, collect payoffs from bookmakers and mobsters, pocketing thousands of dollars a week in addition to his regular paycheck.
It was a nice life. It was good. And plus I had the badge. I couldn't get in any trouble.
So why'd you quit?
Well, I don't think I quit. I think it was a mutual thing. I wore out my welcome, so to speak.
So you left by mutual agreement the Philadelphia Police Department. What did you do next?
I think the next legitimate job I had was at the casino in Atlantic City, Tropicana.
And what was your job there?
Security. Fox in the hen house.
It was 1981. Gambling in Atlantic City had just been legalized, but there was still plenty of opportunity for the enterprising criminal. He stole truckloads of furniture and bar supplies out of the casino's warehouse, cleaned out the guest safety deposit boxes, and ran poker games and prostitutes out of unoccupied hotel suites, making what he calls big money. What are we talking about?
The end result was millions. I took millions from the casino.
Did the hotel know that you were taking the money?
Well, they couldn't prove it, you know.
His success attracted the attention of two powerful organizations, the mob, which wanted tribute in the form of $500 every week, and the New Jersey State Police, which offered him income in exchange for information about the criminal underworld in Atlantic City. So did they give you like an envelope full of cash every week?
Yeah, I used to meet them somewhere, and they'd bring me the cash.
It's almost like they were paying you tribute.
Yeah, I guess they were. But don't forget, I'm giving them information, too. Yeah. They can't operate without informants.
When you developed this relationship with the state police, did they tell you got to go straight?
Listen, they didn't recruit me in the seminary or at the parish hall. Why would they want me to go straight? What kind of information are they going to get from me if I go straight?
By the mid-1980s, his lucky streak at the Tropicana had run out. They actually paid him to go away. And for the next 6 years, he ran his own criminal enterprise with a crew of old buddies from Hamilton, New Jersey. He recalls those days as the happiest of his life.
I was just like a general practitioner of crime. I didn't specialize in anything.
Did you ever go to prison?
No, not really.
How'd you avoid that?
I guess I was smart. I used whatever I could to stay out. I used whatever connections I had. Because you're a criminal doesn't mean you have to go to jail, you know.
Only the bad ones go to jail.
Only the stupid ones go to jail.
Eventually, Previtte's bookmaking operation caught the eye of mob boss Homicide John Stanfa, who wanted a piece of the action. By 1993, Previtte was such a big earner for the Philadelphia mob, Stanfa made him his personal driver, enforcer, and a made member of La Cosa Nostra. All of a sudden, you got a lot on your plate.
Got a lot on my plate. Too much on my plate. Extortions, bookmaking, attempted murder, beating people up. I mean, it was a full day of crime from morning to night, you know.
You talk about debt collection, intimidation. What would you do to people?
Different people, different things. Threaten them, you know, beat them up, hit them with baseball bats.
Break their legs?
Break their legs, break their arms, make them feel pain. Sometimes you have to do it because if somebody doesn't see it, everybody thinks they can stiff you.
But not many people stiffed Ron Previtte.
We had this guy one time, biggest deadbeat in the world. I mean, he had more excuses. So I had one of my guys grab him one time. We lifted the hood of the car. We put his face near the fan blade, closed the hood on his head. Then I'd have the guy go in there and step on the gas. Oh, you know. The fan would just, you know, nick his chin. It was like giving him a close shave. He paid. He paid real quick.
Do you consider yourself a nice guy?
In what context am I a nice guy? I told you before that I was a crook. How could a crook be a nice guy? I didn't find it profitable to be a nice guy in my life.
Did you ever kill anybody?
No.
Never?
No.
You're morally opposed to it, or?
You know, money's not a reason to kill somebody. You make me mad, I could kill you. You fool my family, I could kill you. I'm not going to kill you for money.
He was probably 20 years too late. He'd have been a great gangster in the 50s.
George Anastasia is one of the most respected crime reporters in the country. He's covered La Cosa Nostra for the Philadelphia Inquirer for 20 years. He found Previtte such an interesting character, he's written a new book about him called The Last Gangster.
He knew how to work in the underworld. He knew how to make money. He knew how to use fear, intimidation, and intelligence and sophistication to generate income.
Anastasia says Previtte was a throwback to old-style mobsters like Angelo Bruno and Carlo Gambino, from the days when La Cosa Nostra bragged that it was bigger than U.S. Steel.
In a lot of ways, Bruno in Philadelphia, Gambino in New York, they probably, in another time, in another place, could have been the CEO of a company. But, you know, the best and the brightest in the Italian-American community are not gangsters anymore. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're entertainers or whatever. And so you're scraping the bottom of the gene pool.
Perhaps the best example was skinny Joey Merlino, a particularly vicious mobster obsessed with his own public image.
Joey was a party guy. He liked to go out. He liked to drink. He liked to gamble. He liked the high life.
Merlino patterned himself after New York City's John Gotti and seemed more interested in making headlines than making money. He invited TV crews to his annual Christmas party for the homeless and was a regular fixture at the city's nightclubs, restaurants, and sporting events.
Joey always was calling attention to himself, and he got under the skin of law enforcement. If Gotti was GQ, these guys were details or Maxim, you know, the MTV gangsters. Very, very attuned to the media. They liked the media attention, and it all contributed to their downfall.
To top it all off, Previtte says Merlino and his associates weren't very good at what they did.
They weren't gangsters. They were crooks, thieves. I always figured I developed crime. I did this or did that, and I worked it. They didn't work anything. They just wanted to rob everybody and their own people.
Surrounded by what he thought were incompetents, Previtte began to worry about his future.
When he got to the top of the organization, he looked around and he said, you know, I'm not going to survive. They're going to kill me, I'm going to kill them, or we're all going to go to jail. So being the intelligent individual that he was and the mercenary that he was, he said, you know, I got to have an insurance policy.
That insurance policy was the FBI. His friends at the New Jersey State Police had made the introduction back in 1992, and Previtte had been feeding them dribs and drabs of information as a paid informant. Finally, in 1997, the Bureau told him that it could not protect him forever and convinced him to become a cooperating witness. Previtte wore a wire for more than 2.5 years, recording more than 400 hours of conversation, many of them with bosses and underbosses.
Then that guy puts it on TV. He don't get his facts straight. So he puts on there 5 families. Now, there ain't no 5, you know?
There is no city commission. There is no money reaching out.
John Terry, who now heads the FBI's Organized Crime Division in Philadelphia, was Previtte's handler. I mean, how dangerous was that for him?
It was extremely dangerous. On any given day, if any member or associate of the mob found out that he was wearing a recording device for the FBI, he would have been a target for death. His life was and is in jeopardy.
But Previtte was well compensated cutting one of the best deals in the history of the FBI. $9,000 a month, a car, insurance, and various expenses. It quickly added up.
We paid Mr. Previtte $750,000 beginning in 1992 and ending in 2002.
You had no case against Previtte.
Correct.
He was doing this of his own volition.
That's correct.
For money.
For money.
In addition, the FBI gave Previtte seed money for drug deals, bookmaking, and loan sharking operations, with the understanding that any proceeds would be returned to the FBI. His history is that he's stolen from everybody he's ever worked for. Did he steal from you?
No, not as far as I'm aware of. I mean, we calculated what we thought the value of his information and services were to the FBI, and we paid him for it.
The FBI says it was worth it. With Previtte's help, the government managed to convict more than 50 made members of the Philadelphia mob and their associates, including 3 mob bosses and the mayor of Camden, New Jersey.
I think I was underpaid. I should have made more money. I took a chance every day. It was like jumping out of airplanes every day. When I hear people say how much money I made, well, you go do it. You go do it. Strap that thing on and, go in a viper's pit every day.
It's almost, if you're going to survive in the underworld today, this is what you got to do. You got to look out for yourself, and it's no longer about loyalty and honor and a sense of organization. It's about, I guess in a lot of ways it's like America, number one, look out for yourself.
Which is exactly what Ron Previtte is doing today. He didn't trust the Justice Department to protect him and didn't want them to tell him where or how he was going to live, so he opted not to go into the Witness Protection Program. The FBI's John Terry thinks he's taking a big risk. Why did he decide not to do it?
I don't think he felt as though he could live under the guidelines that are in place for that program. They're very strict guidelines.
Do you think there are people that would like to see him dead?
Absolutely.
You think they're looking for him?
I'm not going to comment on that.
I don't want to sound like a tough guy because I'm really not a tough guy. I just never let fear permeate my being. I have no control over what's going to happen, when I'm going to get killed, when I'm going to die. I just have no control. So I just say don't worry about it.
Have you ever felt loyalty to anybody?
Me. Every time I shave, I feel really loyal.